Me as somebody who is afraid of heights, and I've got a chance to interact with you a bunch, you're in some sense fearless. And I've watched you climb a lot of trees. You've helped me climb a tree. And there's this wonderful part of the book where you talk about finding the tallest tree in the forest you knew at the time. And that was something that you passed and thought was impossible to climb. And you talk about climbing it. You take us through the experience of that. And that leads you to seeing the Mist River in the rainforest as the sun rises. I was wondering if you could talk to the story of that, both for, at least for me, but even for you at that time, the terrifying uh, process of climbing a tree like that for the first time with JJ at the bottom cheering you on, and what it felt like to see the Mist River.
That tree, you've met that tree. She's a good one. Her base is at least as big as this room, and she's probably about 160 something feet tall. And so when you're looking at these giant buttress roots going up, which I'd been doing for 18 years at that point, and I'd always said, man, if I could just climb it. And I never had the rope skills, and I developed as a rock climber. I was working on strength and I trained for it. It's like most things. It's not, you can't just do it. I'd gone and climbed up, 30 feet and gone, no way. The trunk of the tree goes vertical for about 70 feet before branches even come out. So there's just this one big vine. And JJ and I did it at, I want to say like 4 a.m, like really early. The howler monkeys had just started. And you start climbing with the rope up this one vine, and you have to, it's not a technical climb, it's a strength climb. You have to gorilla up this vine, and it's all back strength. And so I did it, no shirt, no shoes, straight up. And JJ had the belay device. And so every like 30 feet, I would put in a piece of webbing and a carabiner. So then you go up another 30 feet and you put a piece of webbing and a carabiner, and you don't know what you're going to find. And you're going up in the dark.
And so when you say it's a lot of strength is involved, so there's very few places to rest. You're essentially just lifting the whole time. So it's extremely exhausting.
Extremely exhausting. Like I really trained for a long time. And there is no rest. The only rest you get hurts. You'll have to cling to the tree, and your feet are smeared against the bark, and you're holding on with your toes, if anything. And if you fall, if you're climbing up, I mean, it's basically trad climbing. If you're climbing up and you put a safety, which is, a piece of rope with a carabiner, and you put my rope through that, again, as you're doing that, it's dangerous because if you fall, you fall. Then I do that, and then you climb up. Right before you put the next one, you're going to fall double. So if you climb 30 feet, you fall 60 feet. And so your head's going to smack against the side of the tree. As you're climbing, you don't know if you're going to reach into a wasp nest or if there's going to be a venomous snake.
And there's, by the way, in those trees, a lot of those.
And it took me over an hour just to get to the branches the first time. And it's just, again, full exertion, everything I had. And then you get to the branches are above you, and each of the branches is the size of a mature oak tree. They're just, these huge branches, big branches, the size thick as a minivan. And you're climbing up this straight tree that's like the World Trade Center. It's just huge. And then I had to traverse around the tree on vines. And then finally I get up into the crown of this tree. And then from there, I called down to JJ, and I just see this little speck of light, 85 feet below me. And then I climbed up to about 120 feet, which is up here. And I sat there.
And you're doing all this still in darkness.
We're doing all this in the pre-dawn light. And so when I got up there, now the howler monkeys are going, oh, and the jungle's starting to vibrate, and you can hear the first macaws starting to chirp, and everything's starting to turn on. And in the east, the sun is coming over the jungle. And so the sun, when the first rays get line of sight to the canopy of the jungle, it starts lifting the mist off the canopy. All of that moisture starts coming up. And I'm sitting on this branch at 100-something feet above the ground with dark jungle below me. And all of a sudden, I see the river. I see the Mist River I'd always heard about. They say that there's a river above the Amazon, an invisible river that has more moisture in it, more water is flowing above the Amazon than is flowing in the Amazon. And I'd heard this my whole life. And you think, like, okay, the fact that there's a molten core of the earth or that black holes theoretically exist is just like one of those things. You're never going to see it. And in this moment on this tree, as sweating and just ripped apart and bleeding, I was sitting up there and I saw the Mist River, and it was flowing over the canopy. in the golden rays of the morning, and the macaws start taking flight, and there was monkeys below me that were looking up, and you could tell they were confused. They're looking at me going, what is that? And I just had this absolutely incredible moment. I wanted to, it felt like you're seeing God. I wanted to share it with everyone. I felt guilty afterwards for having had a moment like that, but it felt like I had done this insane risk and risked falling out of the tree or getting strung up on the ropes. And of course, it's just me and JJ. So if something goes wrong, no one's going to help you. And being out there on that branch felt suicidal, because even then, if you fall, it's a giant swing back to the tree. But the beauty that I saw up there was so intense that it sucked the air right out of my lungs. I had tears in my eyes, and I'm just watching this incredible process flow over the earth, this legendary thing that I'd heard about, that scientists described, and now I'm seeing it with my own eyes. It was, it felt like the gift of the tree.
And you're right. Now, in the branches of the greatest tree in the jungle, I watched as the mist river caught the morning rays, illuminating golden currents, swirling as it rushed over the canopy like a stream from heaven. In the troughs and basins and lower areas, the river was deep blue. But then, as it flowed up and over the taller trees, slow rapids washing over the canopy, the mist river became ignited, electrified in the gold magnificence of the sunlight. Scores of birds flew up, in and out of the churning currents. The life and breath of the Amazon was flowing from north to south along the basins of the Las Piedras of the jungle. My God, my God. I thought of everyone I loved, of every creature contained in the leafy distance. The jungle itself was like a great being, a monstrous leviathan of warm green might. I wanted to call down to JJ and tell him to find a way up. I wanted my mother to see it. I wanted the world to see it. The light filled my eyes, and I found myself wiping away tears. I should take the small tangent of saying the obvious, but the thing that needs to be said is you're a fucking great writer.
Thank you. I mean, come on, I'm just describing what happened, but